The following is an AZPM original production.
Arizona Science is supported by Research Corporation for Science Advancement.
For Arizona Public Media, I'm Leslie Tolbert, Regents Professor Emerita in Neuroscience at the University of Arizona, and this is Arizona Science. Today we'll be talking with Jessica Andrews-Hanna, Associate Professor in Cognition and Neural Systems in the university's Department of Psychology. Jessica is an expert on the internal workings of our minds, including the biology of mind wandering, imagination, and creativity. Thanks for joining us, Jessica.
Thanks for having me.
In neuroscience, we often talk about what's going on in our brains as we perform specific, concrete tasks, because those are the easiest things to address. But you look at what brain centers are involved when we just imagine or let our minds wander. What are you discovering about the brain circuits that are involved?
This is a really, really exciting area of research for me and for the students in my lab, partly because we don't know that much about the science behind imagination. And part of the reason why this is the case is because for decades, that's just not where the questions were posed in the field. There was a lot of research being dedicated toward how we attend to the external world, the sights and the sounds, and much less work about what happens when we turn our thoughts and attention inwards.
And you call that inward thought the default mode network. So it seems like something many of us don't think about, but imagination should be very important to us simply for survival. So are we using the default mode all the time?
Yeah, we probably are. And this is probably why this brain network has been given so much cortical real estate. It takes up about a fifth of the size of our brain. And we're constantly toggling back and forth between these different modes of thinking.
Are most of our brain circuits silent as we focus on one particular task? A particular part of the brain takes over and gets us through the task. The default mode network chugs away when we're daydreaming.
The idea that you're only using 10% of the brain is pretty much not empirically supported. And the default mode network is kind of a good example in that case, where it does seem to be working in the background, often when we're not even knowing it. So when we're thinking deliberate thought, or when we're just letting our minds wander, or when we're not necessarily thinking about anything, there's probably a level of spontaneous activity that may be very important for consolidating our past experiences into our long-term memories, or, thinking ahead in even subconscious ways, that it's sort of probably always working.
I have to ask whether having our cell phones at our sides all the time disrupt the brain's natural sort of rhythm going between the default mode network and other specific networks.
This is something that I wonder about as a researcher, but I also worry about as a parent of a 9-year-old whose friends are starting to have cell phones and such. I think there's so much value to letting our minds wander and to use our imagination. And we need to train this in our kids, right? And so I worry a bit about digital devices being kind of the go-to when kids or even adults get bored, in that it's such an easy escape, and we don't let our minds kind of refresh and recuperate and just turn our thoughts inwards. And I think what this means is it might have some detrimental consequences for our imagination and how that imagination develops. And there's so much good evidence in science about how taking breaks is so very important for allowing us to convert our experiences into long-term memories, for inspiring creative thinking, for even helping us reach our goals in many ways as well.
Thanks very much, Jessica, for sharing these insights with us. Jessica Andrews-Hanna is an expert on the brain's mechanisms that underlie imagination and creativity. You can listen to this and all Arizona Science conversations at azpm.org/Arizona Science. I'm Leslie Tolbert.
Thank you to Research Corporation for Science Advancement for their support of Arizona Science. AZPM podcasts are made possible in part by donations from listeners like you. Learn more at support.azpm.org. Thank you.